Claude, ChatGPT, and Grammarly are going head-to-head across 5 tests: cost, coding benchmarks, speed, context limits, and deployment, and I'm keeping score the whole way through. The biggest surprise here didn't come from a benchmark chart at all. It came from a pricing page because that $12 a month Grammarly headline is actually a $144 charge you pay upfront once a year, and almost nobody mentions that part out loud. Let's start with the number everyone actually cares about first. Claude's Pro plan runs $20 a month, or $17 a month if you pay annually. ChatGPT's Plus plan lands at the exact same $20 a month. Push into the high-tier plans, and Claude Max runs $100 or $200 a month. ChatGPT Pro mirrors that at $100 or $200 a month, and Grammarly jumps straight to a custom enterprise quote with no public number attached. Claude and ChatGPT are charging identical money for a very different kind of tool, and Grammarly is cheaper, but it's not competing in the same category, so I'm not handing it the win just for being the smallest number on the page. Free tier generosity is a separate question though, and it's not close. Claude's free tier caps out around 10 to 15 messages per session, which is genuinely restrictive if you're doing real work. ChatGPT's free tier runs on GPT 5.6 Luna with its own message limits, but it gives you noticeably more room to actually use the thing before you hit a wall. Grammarly's free tier only covers basic grammar checks, no AI rewriting. ChatGPT takes this round. That puts ChatGPT at 1 point, Claude at 0, and Grammarly at 0, with the flagship pricing itself called a tie between Claude and ChatGPT. On the flagship subscription price, this one's a tie. Grammarly's Pro plan advertises $12 a month, but that's only true if you commit to a full year upfront, which works out to $144 charged in one lump sum. My name is Brian, and I review AI software so you don't have to. I dug through the official pricing pages, the model cards, and the independent benchmark trackers for all 3 of these, so you don't have to open 12 tabs to figure out which one is worth your money. This is the test that actually decides who you'd trust with real code. On SWE Bench Verified, a benchmark that grades models on genuine software engineering tasks, Claude Opus 4.5 scores 80.9%. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. ChatGPT's GPT-5 comes in at 74.9%. Grammarly isn't positioned as a coding agent at all, and I couldn't find a published figure for it on this benchmark or any other major coding test, which tells you everything about where it's built to compete. On Human Evil, the gap holds. Claude Opus 4.5 scores 97.3%. ChatGPT's GPT 5.1 scores 94.2%. Both numbers are strong on their own, but Claude leads on every coding metric in this comparison, not by a hair, by a real margin that would matter the moment you're shipping actual pull requests instead of toy problems. Claude takes this test outright. That puts Claude at 1 point, ChatGPT still at 1, and Grammarly at 0. If you write code for a living, this is the round that should carry the most weight in your decision, because a 6-point SWE bench gap is the kind of thing that shows up in how much cleanup work you're doing after the model finishes. That's a clean 6-point gap, and it's community reported, so treat it as a strong signal rather than a lab-certified number. Knowing which model is smarter doesn't help if you're sitting there waiting on it. Time to first token is where this gets interesting. ChatGPT's GPT 5.1 responds in 1.8 seconds. Claude Opus 4.5 takes 3.2 seconds for that same first token. That's nearly twice as fast for ChatGPT, and this figure comes from a community benchmark, so it's directional rather than an official company claim. Grammarly plays a different game entirely here. You're not waiting on Grammarly to think through a problem. you're waiting on it to flag a comma. For anyone chaining prompts together or working in a back-and-forth conversation, that 1.8-second response from ChatGPT is going to feel meaningfully snappier over the course of a real session. ChatGPT wins this test clean. That puts ChatGPT at 2 points, Claude at 1, and Grammarly at 0. Speed alone. Its grammar, underlines, and quick rewrites land near instantly, but that's not really a fair comparison because it's not running as a general-purpose reasoning model the way Claude and ChatGPT are. Stick with me because the last 4 tests are where this decision actually flips. Next up is context and output limits, the test that quietly decides whether the rest of this comparison even matters. On context and output limits, ChatGPT pulled clearly ahead once the workload got real. So ChatGPT takes context and output limits, and the scoreboard shifts its way. Next up is deployment and modality, the test that quietly decides whether the rest of this comparison even matters. On deployment and modality, Claude pulled clearly ahead once the workload got real. So Claude takes deployment and modality, and the scoreboard shifts its way. Here is where Claude clearly pulls ahead of the field. Now, here is where ChatGPT clearly pulls ahead of the field. Here is where Grammarly clearly pulls ahead of the field. Pick the one whose single biggest strength matches the job in front of you today. One thing the docs never spell out will quietly cost you if you miss it. If this helped, the next breakdown on the channel goes even deeper.